Welcome to the Deep Dive. Ever noticed how some people are fine reading their phone up close, but really squint to see, say, a bus number down the street? Well, today we're diving into exactly that. Myopia, or what most of us just call nearsightedness,
That's right.
and where things close up are crystal clear, but anything far away gets kind of fuzzy.
It's incredibly common. And for this deep dive, our source material is basically a set of really solid revision notes on myopia.
Okay, great.
So our mission, if you like, is to give you a really clear, high-yield rundown of myopia. Everything you need for revision, really.
Right.
What it is, why it happens, the options.
Fantastic. Sounds simple, but I get the feeling there's more to it.
Oh, definitely. There's actually some interesting newer research about retinal processing, too, not just eye shape. We can touch on that.
Cool. Okay, let's jump in. The basics first. What is myopia exactly?
Okay, simply put, myopia means distant objects look blurry, but near objects are clear. And the reason is that the light coming into your eye from far away focuses in front of the retina, not right on it.
In front of it. So
Yeah.
the focus point is, like, too early.
Precisely. The retina is that light-sensitive bit at the back of the eye, remember?
So what causes that? Why does the light miss the target?
Well, anatomically, it's usually one of two things, or sometimes a combination.
Okay.
Either the eyeball itself is a bit too long, front to back, elongated.
Right. Stretched out.
Exactly. Or the cornea, that clear window at the front, is too curved, too steep.
Ah, so it bends the light too much.
Exactly. Either way, the result is the light focuses too soon, before it hits the retina.
That balloon analogy you mentioned earlier was good. Stretching it makes the back further away, or a more curved front bends light too sharply.
That's the idea. It helps picture those physical reasons.
Now, is this something that just gets progressively worse forever? Or does it, settle down?
It does tend to get worse during childhood and the teenage years while the eyes are still growing. That's the progression phase. But the good news is, for most people, it tends to slow right down and plateau, usually after about age 20.
Phew. Okay, so it doesn't just keep going.
Generally not. Though it's worth pointing out, we don't currently have a guaranteed way to completely stop that initial progression.
Right, understood. So
Well-
we know what it is and how it works mechanically, but what actually causes someone to develop it in the first place? The etiology.
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's multifactorial,
Maybe.
meaning it's usually not just one single thing. It's a mix of your genes and your environment.
So nature and nurture. If your mom and dad wear glasses, are you doomed?
Not doomed. But yes, there's definitely a genetic link. Some specific gene variations do increase your risk,
Okay.
but it's definitely not just genes. Environmental factors play a huge role, too.
Like what kind of factors?
Things like doing a lot of close-up work, reading, screens, tablets, phones, all that near stuff.
Uh-huh. Pretty much modern life, then.
Pretty much. And also, not spending enough time outdoors seems to be a big one.
Really? Outdoors? Why is that?
Well, the thinking is that bright natural light helps regulate eye growth, possibly through dopamine release in the retina. Being indoors a lot, especially under dimmer artificial light, might interfere with that.
Fascinating. So less time outside, more time staring at screens?
Yeah.
That combo is tricky.
It seems to be, yes. That interplay between genetic susceptibility and these environmental triggers is key.
Okay, so let's list those risk factors clearly. What should people remember?
All right, key risk factors are, first, family history, definitely a big one.
Got it.
Second, significant time spent on near work, reading, devices, you name it.
Okay, near work.
Third, the flip side, limited outdoor activities.
Right, like the sunshine.
Fourth, ethnicity. People of East Asian descent have a higher prevalence, statistically.
Interesting.
And finally, just to reiterate, those general environmental factors we just discussed, the near-work outdoor time balance.
Okay, family, near work, less outdoors, East Asian ethnicity. Is there a way to maybe group those?
How about this? Think, for near outdoor eyes.
FNOE. Family, near work,
Yeah.
outdoor limited, East Asian. I like it. Makes it stick.
Hopefully.
So we've got the risks. Let's quickly recap the actual process inside the eye, the pathophysiology. You said elongated eyeball or steep cornea.
Exactly. The core issue is either the axial length front to back is too long, or the cornea's refractive power is too strong because it's too curved.
And the result?
The result is light from far away focuses in front of the retina, not on it.
Imagine drawing it. Light rays crossing before they hit the back screen.
Precisely. And that mismatch is what causes that blurry distance vision. Simple cause, frustrating effect.
Right. But blurry vision could be other things too, couldn't it? How do you know it's definitely myopia?
Good point. That brings us to differential diagnosis. We need to rule out other conditions.
Like what?
Well, there's hyperopia or farsightedness. That's kind of the opposite.
Opposite how?
Distant things are clear, but near things are blurry. Light focuses behind the retina then.
Okay, so myopia, blurry far, hyperopia, blurry near. What else?
Astigmatism. That causes blurriness at pretty much all distances. It's usually because the cornea isn't perfectly round, more like a rugby ball shape.
Ah, so irregular shape causes general blur. Got it. Anything else?
And then there's presbyopia. This is the one that happens as we get older, usually over 40.
Right. Needing reading glasses.
Exactly. The lens inside the eye gets less flexible, making it hard to focus up close. So near vision gets blurry, but it's an age-related focusing issue, different from myopia or hyperopia's basic mechanism.
Okay, so myopia, hyperopia, astigmatism, presbyopia all cause blurriness, but in different ways and for different reasons.
Precisely. And getting the diagnosis right is crucial because the correction needed the type of glasses or contacts is different for each one.
Makes sense. You need the right fix for the right problem. Okay, let's talk numbers. Epidemiology. How common is myopia? You said it's on the rise.
It really is. Globally, the numbers are shooting up. Here in the UK, studies suggest maybe 30 to 40% of the population is affected.
Wow, that's like 1 in 3 people, potentially.
Yeah, it's significant. And it usually starts in childhood, as we said.
That's 6 to 13 age range.
That's the most common onset time, yeah. But it can develop later in life, too. And roughly a third of adults overall are thought to have some degree of myopia.
So if it often starts in childhood, what are the signs parents or teachers should look out for? The clinical features.
The absolute classic sign is blurred distance vision, trouble seeing the board at school, road signs, the TV from across the room.
Okay, obvious one. What else?
Squinting is a big one. People instinctively squint to try and make things clearer. It slightly changes the way light enters the eye.
Ah, like making a pinhole camera effect.
Kind of, yeah. Also, headaches or eye strain, especially after doing lots of reading or screen work. The eyes are working harder.
Right, and needing to sit closer.
Definitely. That child who always wants to be right at the front of the class or sits practically on top of the TV.
Any other clues in kids?
Regular eye rubbing can be a sign, or complaining often about tired eyes or headaches. If you see those behaviors, it's definitely worth getting an eye test.
Good advice. So see an optician. What actually happens in that eye test? What investigations are done?
Well, the main thing is a comprehensive eye exam. It's not just one test.
Okay.
It'll always include visual acuity testing, that's the classic eye chart, reading letters at a distance.
Mellon chart, right.
Usually, yes. And the optician will also examine the structures of the eye, looking at the cornea, lens, retina.
How do they figure out the prescription?
They use trial lenses during the acuity test. For myopia, they'll use concave lenses. They're thinner in the middle. They'll try different strengths until they find the lens power that makes the distance vision clear.
Concave lenses.
Yep. Sometimes they also use automated instruments, electronic imaging that can measure the eye's shape and refractive error very quickly.
So it's a pretty thorough process.
It needs to be to get an accurate diagnosis and prescription.
Okay, so myopia is diagnosed. What next? How is it managed?
Management really has two goals. First, correct the blurry vision so the person can see clearly. And second, especially in kids and teenagers where it might still be progressing, the aim is often to try and slow down that progression.
Right. So how do you correct the vision?
The most common ways are eyeglasses with those concave lenses we mentioned.
Standard specs.
Exactly. Or contact lenses. They sit right on the eye surface. Offer wider field of view, but need more care. Hygiene is really important.
True. Any other options?
There's laser eye surgery. Things like LASIK, PRK, they reshape the cornea permanently.
But that's a bigger step.
Oh, yes. It's surgery, so there are potential risks and complications. Plus, it's costly and generally not available on the NHS for simple myopia. Same goes for artificial lens, implants, another surgical option, but again, usually private.
Okay, so glasses and contacts are the mainstays for correction. What about slowing the progression?
This is a really active area of research. Some current approaches include orthokeratology.
Ortho-K.
Yes, ortho-K special hard contact lenses worn overnight. They temporarily reshape the cornea, providing clear vision during the day, and there's evidence they can slow progression in kids.
Interesting. What else?
Low-dose atropine eye drops. It's a medication used in very dilute form that seems to help slow down the eye elongation in some children. Requires careful monitoring by an eye specialist, though.
Okay, a pharmaceutical approach.
And then there are the lifestyle things we talked about earlier, encouraging more time outdoors, taking regular breaks from near work. These are generally recommended too.
So are there actual prescribed medicines to treat myopia itself?
Not to treat the refractive error itself, no. We correct it with lenses, glasses, or contacts. The only prescribed medication involved is really the atropine, and that's specifically aimed at slowing progression in children, not reversing the myopia.
Got it. Correction versus slowing progression. Important distinction.
Yeah.
So what's the long-term outlook? The prognosis?
Well, how much someone's myopia progresses really varies from person to person.
Right.
But as we said, it typically does stabilize in early adulthood for most people. The key thing for a good long-term outlook is having regular eye exams.
To keep the prescription updated.
Exactly. And also, crucially, to monitor for any potential complications down the line. Proper management makes a big difference.
Okay, complications. You mentioned those.
Mm-hmm.
What should people be aware of?
Yeah, unfortunately, having myopia, especially high myopia, which just means a stronger prescription, more nearsightedness does increase the risk of some other eye problems later on.
Gotcha.
Things like retinal detachment, where the retina pulls away from the back of the eye, that's serious.
Definitely.
Also, myopic maculopathy, which is damage to the central part of the retina, affecting detailed vision. And there's a higher risk of developing glaucoma and cataracts, too.
Glaucoma and cataracts. So being nearsighted isn't just about needing glasses.
And not entirely, no. The risks are real, particularly with higher degrees of myopia. It's thought the elongation of the eye in myopia stretches the retina and other structures, making them more vulnerable.
That makes sense.
And just to add, if myopia isn't corrected properly, especially in childhood, it can lead to things like a lazy eye amblyopia, or a squint, which is strabismus.
So early detection and consistent management are really key to minimizing these risks.
Absolutely crucial. Take it seriously. Get regular checks.
Okay. Phew, that was a lot of information. Let's try and lock some of it in. We have that great mnemonic for risk factors. For near outdoor eyes.
FNOE. Family, near work, outdoor limited, East Asian ethnicity.
Perfect. Any other quick memory tips?
Just thinking myopia, my eye can't see far, can be a simple reminder of the basic problem.
Yeah, well.
And for the correction, remember concave lenses. They're caved inwards, you could say, and they push the focus point back onto the retina.
Concave, caved in. Got it. How about we test ourselves with a couple of quick questions?
Sure, fire away. Or I can give you one.
Okay, you go first.
All right. A 10-year-old child is seen squinting a lot in class and asks to sit near the front to see the board. What's the most likely visual issue?
That sounds exactly like what we've been discussing. Myopia.
Correct. Okay, your turn.
What type of lens is needed to correct the refractive error in myopia?
That would be the concave lens.
Spot on. One more.
Go for it.
Name 3 environmental risk factors linked to developing myopia.
Okay. Lots of close-up work like reading or screens.
Yep. Near work,
Spending not much time outdoors.
limited outdoor activity, right?
Well, extended screen time is sort of part of the near work, isn't it? So near work, limited outdoor time. Trying to think if there was a third distinct one. Perhaps just emphasizing the lack of bright natural light exposure that comes with being indoors.
I think near work, limited outdoor time, and extended screen time covers the main environmental ones nicely. Perfect.
Great. Those kinds of questions really help cement the key points.
Absolutely. Well, that brings us towards the end of this deep dive into myopia. We've covered the definition, the causes, risk factors, how it works, how it's diagnosed and managed, and importantly, the potential complications.
We certainly have.
So the main takeaway. If you or your child are experiencing any symptoms like blurry distance vision, squinting, or headaches, please do go and see an optician for a proper checkup.
Definitely. Regular eye exams are so important, especially if you know you have some of those risk factors.
Yeah. And maybe just take a moment to think, how much time do I really spend staring at screens versus being outside? Could my habits be impacting my eyes?
It's a worthwhile thought for all of us in the modern world.
Indeed. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it useful.
And remember, for more great revision resources, especially if you're preparing for medical exams,
check out PathophysiologyRecap and also freemsra.com. Loads of helpful stuff there.
Absolutely.
Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.